Hey girls, Miss Cartwright here. This is Vocab Unit 7 for Level E. Please take notes in the writing section of your writing notebook for any definitions or examples that are particularly useful for you. Our first word today is abhor, and that's a verb. It means to regard with horror or loathing, to hate deeply. So you can see all these people are pretty disgusted, but abhorring is actually kind of deeper than that disgust. It's something that you really can't even stomach. So like racism is something that we should all abhor, or the fact that people live in poverty, that's something that we should all abhor. Brussels sprouts, maybe you abhor them, but that's probably like a lesser degree of hatred. Amend is our next word. It's a verb. It means to change in a formal way, to change for the better. So you've got an example here of a young girl saying she's sorry. That's an example of amending a situation. But think also about the idea of amendments to the Constitution. Those are things that make the Constitution better. So you can amend a formal document. You could amend a contract, for example. Our next word is also a verb. It's buffet, which means to slap or cuff, to strike repeatedly, to drive or force with blows, to force one's way with difficulty, or a slap or blow. So it can also mean, it can also have a noun sense there. We've got an example of Kristen, what's her name, slapping Jacob in Twilight here, I think. I think that's what we've got here. In any case, she's definitely delivering a buffet to his face, or buffeting his face. One way that we hear buffet used a lot, I'll hear that the wind is buffeting the sails on a sailboat, right? Like the wind slaps or cuffs the sails because it's really strong. Our next word is chaos, a noun. A great confusion, disorder, right? You'll often hear the word chaotic used as an adjective, but it can also be used as a noun. Commodious is an adjective meaning roomy or spacious, right? Here's an example of a really commodious hotel room. It's huge. That's the opposite of a tiny cubicle, which is one of our words from earlier this semester. Corrosive is an adjective meaning eating away at gradually, acid-like, or bitterly sarcastic. So it could be literally something that's corrosive, right? Like if I drink too much coffee, it could be corrosive for my teeth, or it could be that my sense of humor is corrosive, right? It's harmful to others. Our next word is a verb, discern, which is a verb. It means to see clearly or to recognize. So here the glasses help me to discern the flowers, or I could look through all of the data to discern the truth. Extant is an adjective that means still existing, not exterminated, destroyed, or lost. So when we use the word extant, we're usually referring to something that's really old, something that we would expect to have been destroyed, but it's not. And this ancient ruin, the Colosseum, is an example of something that's extant. It's still existing from ancient Roman times. It hasn't been lost. Same with ancient manuscripts. Like if we had an ancient copy of the Odyssey, that would be an extant manuscript. It would be existing from its former time. Implicate is a verb which means to involve in or to connect with or be related. So for example, here we have a lawyer who's implicating the witness with his questions, right? He's indicating that she's involved with a crime. Inter is another verb which means to bury, to commit to the earth, or to consign to oblivion. And here we have an example of someone who is interred with all of his gold, right? This looks like Pirates of the Caribbean to me. Or interred could be like also just that you're hidden beneath something. So sometimes you might feel like you've been interred under mountains and mountains of homework. Martinet is a noun, and it means a strict disciplinarian, a stickler for the rules. So here we have a Marine sergeant yelling at his subordinate officers, really making them follow the rules. That's an example of a martinet. Obliviate is a verb which means to anticipate and prevent, to remove or dispose of. So hopefully this vaccination for this infant obliviates the need for her to suffer from a disease later on. Or you could obliviate something by causing it to be totally destroyed or removed. Renegade is a noun, and it's one who leaves a group, a deserter, an outlaw, traitorous, unconventional, or unorthodox. So you can see that it has both a meaning as a noun and also as an adjective. traitorous, unconventional. Katniss in The Hunger Games is an example of a renegade. She's somebody who leaves the main group and goes against the rules. Here's a historical renegade for you, Benedict Arnold. He's somebody who was traitorous during the Revolutionary War. Reprehensible is an adjective that means deserving of blame or punishment. So whatever this young boy did, his actions were reprehensible, and they caused him to be sent to the principal's office for punishment. Somber is an adjective meaning dark, gloomy, depressed, or melancholy in spirit. And it even has a sound sad to it, that word somber. Squalid is an adjective meaning filthy, wretched, or debased. So here's a really clear example of a squalid kitchen. Hopefully yours never looks like that. Your parents might accuse you of having a squalid bedroom if you're anything like I was when I was a teenager and demanding that you clean it up immediately. Turbulent is an adjective meaning disorderly or riotous or violent or stormy. So here's an example of the sea in a turbulent uproar. But you could also have turbulent emotions if something really upsetting had happened. Vociferous is an adjective meaning loud and noisy, something that demands attention. I always remember this one because it looks like it starts with the word voice and it sounds strong. Vociferous, right? So you're really demanding that attention, as these two people are with their screams. Voluminous is an adjective that means of great size, numerous, writing or speaking at great length. So on the left you have an example of a woman with extremely voluminous hair. I think almost all shampoo commercials try to convince us that our hair should be more voluminous. And then on the right you have an example of someone who's speaking at great length, a voluminous speech that's putting his audience to sleep. And our final word this week is waive, which means to do without, to give up voluntarily, to put off temporarily, or defer. Here's an example of some folks giving up their cell phones voluntarily, so they're waiving the right to their cell phones. Notice that this example of the word waive has an I in it, whereas the one that we use when we talk about waving to our friends, that one doesn't have an I. All right, you guys, so that is Vocab Unit 7. I look forward to seeing your notes or your vocab stories in class next time. Thanks, girls.